Hey, my name is Daniel. I want to walk us through how we can put a disability policy in place. The number one issue I have is that people don't know that they should buy it. Once they realize, hey, if you got disabled, who's going to pay your bills? And you paint a picture that is just very logical and reasonable that if you live on one income, how would it be on zero income? And it would make sense to protect your income. So getting them income focused as opposed to estate focused, where if they lose an income, what happens? And then let them tell you, do you move in with your parents? Do you move back home, wherever that is? What happens? Once they say, hey, listen, I'm open to it, if the price is normal. Once they say I'm open to it, or once they say I'm willing to move forward, we don't want to show the technical details until they're willing to move forward, until they're willing to buy it if it's right. But you can't ask, will you buy it if it's right? It's almost like, if I ask my wife, if I do this, will you do this? It doesn't work like that. There has to be some assumptions, assuming they're going to move forward. But once we agree, hey, they want to look at a disability policy, they want to look at what it looks like. And then I want to go through, this is a one-page PDF. I pull it out to put together what I'm looking at. And I pull it out and I go through it exactly like this. I say, well, when we're building a policy, there's different levers that we can pull. And so when I say there's different levers we can pull, what I mean is if I go to disability and I say, well, the definition of disability, what that means is is it accident only or is it accident and illness? Is it accident only or accident and illness? Some policies are accident and only. In that case, the price goes down because it's if you slip and break your ankle and you can't work for a year, whatever the issue is, that covers it. Check. But if you get a bowel problem, I had a guy break his intestines, or you get multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, whatever it is. Typically, we want to get both unless they've already had a bunch of illnesses. So if I meet someone and he's just had a bunch of illnesses, it's hard to get an illness coverage. It's hard to get something for something he's already had. And so ideally, when we're going through with a client, we just highlight, hey, we'd like to get it all if we can. The only reason we wouldn't is if you don't want to pay the full amount. It's a little bit cheaper to get just one, or you've had health issues. And so those are the two issues that why we maybe get a little less. Then we want to look at the amount of coverage. The amount of coverage can be broken down between, most common is this one, 66% of your income. Now, we have to know work pays out first. So if they have work coverage, they cannot buy more of this coverage. So if they have a work plan, what they could do though, is they could cover their mortgage payment. So let's say their income is $5,000 and their disability covers $3,000. Well, what we could do is we could cover $1,000 for their mortgage or their car payment or their loan payments. And if they have business overhead, if they're self-employed, we could cover that too. But we have to make sure the coverage matches a need. And so most policies we put in place are self-employed people that cover the income, or they're employed people and they want extra coverage on their mortgage. So of course, the more coverage you buy, the more coverage you pay. And it's fairly linear. Now, the length of the benefit means if you got disabled here, do they stop in 2 years, stop in 5 years, or do they stop paying you when you're age 65? So the length of the benefit, you have to guess at the length of the disability. Now, I believe the average disability is somewhere around 3 years, but some last lifetime and some last 90 days. So this one is the premier policy, putting till age 65. But if we said, okay, we want to do the income, what we discuss is we say this is ideal, having it till age 65. But sometimes on a budget, you may want to get a simpler plan and then upgrade later when your budget changes. So the length is usually based on your budget, not your needs. But because typically you don't know your need if you get disabled. And then lastly, the waiting period depends on how much cash you have available. And that cash could be line of credit, credit card, stuff like that. We can do policies where they start in 90 days, which means they're cheaper because you don't have to pay for the first 90 days of illness of all the other guys in your block of business. And 120 days is your EI policy. If you have EI, it pays out first. And so if you're employed, typically 120 days works because EI does 119 days. And so if they say ideally, they might want to have this one, but we're not sure depending on budget. And we can pull these levers to affect the budget. Now, waiting period, I've seen a lot of guys sell 0-day. And in my experience, it's usually taken about 30 days to process a claim. They back pay till 30 days. But at 30 days, we hope that you can put together 30 days worth of income. And the most common, if you're doing bigger policies, is a 90-day waiting period because you have an emergency fund for 90 days. So the less cash you have, the more you have to pay for a shorter waiting period. And if they have a job and an EI, then we're going here. So these are the levers that we can pull and push to get the right policy. Now, when we say ideally, just reminding them in a different view. Down here in the bottom corner, we have government programs. We got to remind them that you have employment is only 119 days, 15 weeks. CPP is only severe and prolonged, and it's only max 1,300. And workers' compensation has to be caused at work. So those are great programs, great government programs, but they're not full programs. So if you're choosing a program, ideally, what I would like to do is I would like to do a full definition. And then if your income is 5,000, when you put it into the software, it tells you the amount of coverage. So maybe this client's going to say, we're going to get 3,000 of coverage. And if you buy the policy personally, this stuff is tax-free. So if they make 5,000 income a month, 60,000 a year, they would get 3,000 tax-free. Now I talk to the client and say, we have policies also that if you have a 90-day waiting period and you wait your 90 days and you put that on your line of credit, if you've disabled 6 months or longer, what it'll do is it'll back pay your waiting period. So you can pay off that line of credit. So if we say for sake of dollar value, we're going to do 90-day waiting period, and we can show you the differences in price, and the length of benefit is till age 65. And it's very hard in the disability. Most policies don't lapse. I think they have a 95 plus persistency rate on average in the industry. And some things I see when they could be replaced is if the amount of coverage is extremely low, where they just buy a $1,000 coverage and we want to upgrade that, or the length of benefit is low, or the waiting period is low or long. So you can kind of make a change of what do you have and maybe making an adjustment. But I would say these are the levers on how to adjust what we want. And then we just go with the client and say, I think we're going to choose this, 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 and this. And then this is the price. And you price it out with them. And then you can show them a few different policies. And the enemy of them making change is confusion. And sales is just asking people to make a change. And if they're confused, it's very hard for them to make a change. And so you need to be unconfused, if that's a term, and they need to be clear as well. My name is Daniel Fehr-Krahn. Thank you.